In this episode of Everyday Movie Recap, we will discuss the film Krampus 2015. Young Max loses interest in Christmas as his dysfunctional family fights over the holidays. This lack of holiday joy unleashes Krampus, an ancient villain intent on punishing non-believers. All hell breaks loose as beloved holiday icons take on a monstrous life of their own. They lay siege to the fractured family's house and force them to fight for survival. A few days before Christmas, a group of people rush to the grocery to buy gifts. However, because of their agitation, most of them fight over reduced items and wreck everything in the store. A few seconds later, a family returns home from the store. Their parents, Tom and Sarah, and Tom's mother, Omi. Max still believes in Santa, whereas the others do not. While Max takes his family to watch Christmas movies or wrap gifts together, Tom, Sarah, and Beth are preoccupied with their own activity. Max is upset as a result, but Omi tries to cheer him up by telling him to send a letter to Santa Claus. Not long after that, Sarah's family comes to their house to celebrate Christmas. Sarah's sister Linda, Linda's husband Howard, their children Howie, Stevie, Jordan, and infant Chrissy, Sarah and Linda's bad-tempered Aunt Dorothy. Max's fam apparently dislikes Howard's visits because they usually cause trouble. Furthermore, Max wishes to carry on family traditions, but disagreements among his relatives dampen their holiday joy. Stevie and Jordan make fun of Max for still believing in Santa when they are all eating supper together. Not only that, but his cousins read his letter to Santa. Knowing this, Max clashes with them and yells that he despises his entire family and even Christmas. When he reads his letter for the second time, his father enters unexpectedly to comfort him. Tom reminds Max that he should always love his family, even if they are always causing him problems. But, because Max is still upset, he tears up the letter and throws it outdoors into the wind. A massive snowfall engulfs the town, sweeping the letter into the skies and knocking out the power. The next morning, things worsen as the electricity remains out and the blizzard intensifies. They also discover a huge sack that strangely appeared on their porch. Beth goes out to check on her lover a few blocks ahead. The weather abruptly worsens as she walks along the snowy road, and a gigantic horned thing pursues after her. As Beth flees, she hides beneath a delivery truck, but the creature plants a jack-in-the-box, biting her and giving the impression that she has been slain. Max returns home to see even more snowmen than before. Tom and Sarah, on the other hand, stare out the window, worried about their daughter, who is still not home. As a result, Tom enlists Howard's assistance in searching for Beth. Omi, on the other hand, does not want Tom to leave the house since it is unsafe and hazardous. Regardless, Tom and Howard walk out into the snowy night, where they stumble upon an abandoned snow remover in the middle of the road. When Howard noticed that something nasty had assaulted the truck, he withdrew his rifle from it as a precaution. When the two get to their destination, they discover Beth's boyfriend's house in ruins, with the chimney split open and big goat-like hoof prints throughout the property. An unknown snow monster concealed in the snow assaults Howard as he returns to his car. Fortunately, Tom is able to save Howard by blasting the monster with his revolver. Staggering back, they discovered their car had been ruined. This forces them to return to the house on foot. When Tom arrives, he immediately administers to Howard's wound, while the parents lead the children and elderly into the kitchen to discuss what just happened. But first, Omi reminds Tom to keep the fire going. After a lengthy debate, the grown-ups finally agree on Tom's plan to remain in place and board up all the doors and windows. Except for Howard, who volunteers to stand vigil, everyone attempts to sleep. He does, however, soon fall asleep that night, allowing the fire to burn out. A gigantic hook descends from the chimney, dragging a living gingerbread man with it. It then produces an unusual sound as it lowers Howie to the chimney. The chimney contraption swiftly comes to life and wraps Howie up in preparation for taking him up the chimney. This awakens everyone, and they strive to save him. Sadly, despite their greatest efforts to save him, they eventually lose control over Howie. In addition, in attempting to save Howie, they unintentionally kick away a fire log. As a result, Tom hastily instructs Max to extinguish the flames with a fire extinguisher. At that point, Omi reveals that the entity stalking them is Krampus, an old demonic spirit that punishes individuals who have lost their Christmas spirit. Omi recalls how, as a youngster, her parents and town lost their enthusiasm as a result of the sufferings of the European War. Feeling hopeless with her family, she wished for her parents to be taken away, so she mistakenly summoned Krampus, who comes to take and punish rather than to reward. Krampus and his henchmen drove her entire family into the underworld, leaving Omi behind and leaving her with a bell bauble bearing his name as a warning of the penalties of forsaking Christmas spirit. The family is suspicious after hearing the narrative, especially Howard, who intends to find Howie and Beth on his own. However, after seeing so many terrible snowmen outside, as well as some unknown animals moving around, he decides to abandon his plan. Following that, Tom devises a plan to flee the house and seek refuge elsewhere. While the briefing is taking place, the doorstep gifts begin to appear, and Max notices Krampus outside. While Stevie and Jordan are on their way to the bathroom, Beth's voice draws them into the attic. The adults downstairs soon heard them scream. Tom, Sarah, and Linda rush upstairs to investigate, only to discover the Jack in the Box from before Jordan was devoured. The three of them struggle at first to fight off the live toys, but fortunately, an outraged Linda manages to keep them at bay for a while after seeing Stevie lying near the monster clown, who scurries away into the air duct. Howard is also investigating a strange noise in the kitchen. Suddenly, he receives nail gun bullets and discovers a bunch of gingerbread men. He instantly defends himself with a wooden board before opening fire on them. Fortunately, Rosie arrives just in time to finish them off. They attempt to track down the monstrous clown after reconnecting below. Max eventually sends Rosie to the air duct, but his plan appears to fail as the monstrous clown consumes Rosie and falls to the floor below. Dorothy hurriedly grabs the revolver and finishes off some of the living toys, but Krampus elves burst through a window and kidnap Dorothy and Chrissy. Howard, desperate to reclaim his children, resolves to jump on the enormous clown's back and then vanish. After hearing Krampus howl, the elves likewise back away. Tom decides they should all retreat to an abandoned snow remover in the streets outside. Omi, on the other hand, stays behind to distract Krampus, who emerges from the fireplace quickly. During their brief meeting, he strikes her with his bag of toys. Meanwhile, the party continues their escape, but the snow monster eventually devours Tom as he sacrifices himself. Unfortunately, it also consumes Linda and Sarah, leaving Max and Stevie trapped in the snow remover. The elves suddenly see Stevie just as they are about to start the engine. Meanwhile, Krampus confronts Max by sending him a bell bauble wrapped in a piece of his discarded letter, reminding him of the dangers of forsaking the Christmas spirit. Realizing that tearing up the letter is what drew Krampus there in the first place, Max rushes after him and returns the bell bauble, hoping to exchange the death of his family for the return of the bell bauble. Krampus, on the other hand, ignores him, and the pit of the underworld appears before him. When Stevie is about to be cast into the underworld, Max pleads with Krampus to spare her life and offer himself as a sacrifice instead. Krampus, on the other hand, rejects and decides to cast Stevie into the underworld. At that point, Max sincerely apologizes for his lack of Christmas spirit. Despite the fact that Krampus appears to accept his apologies, he ends up dumping Max into the pit. Max then wakes up on Christmas morning at his house. He dashes to the window and glances outside to take in the festive scene. Max also discovers that his family is still alive and well downstairs, going about their usual Christmas activities. As a result, he believes that what occurred was a nightmare. He then opens his Christmas present, only to find Krampus bauble inside. The family's faces darken with foreboding expressions as the awful occurrence returns to them. At the end of the film, Krampus watches Max's family through a snow globe, leaving the fate of the family uncertain. It's entirely up to you to decide how you want it to end, whether the family is still alive or they are all dead, and that Krampus is in prison with the whole family on the snow globe. Regardless of the controversy surrounding the snow globe, one thing is certain: the true significance of Krampus ending, and in fact of the entire film, is to be careful of what you wish for. Christmas should be about giving and spending time with the people who are important in one's life. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoy the movie. For more content like this, please like and subscribe to our channel.